Hey everyone, happy Friday. We are back with the practice of love with Sean and Sophia. That is our working title. And today, Sean, the wonderful, wise men's intimacy coach. My goal is to make him feel as uncomfortable as possible.
Yeah, let's do that.
No.
That's where all the magic is.
Yes, indeed. We never know what's going to happen on the practice of love. And I'm Sophia Traeger, for those of you who don't know me, radical pleasurist and women's intimacy coach. And today, Sean is going to illuminate for us one of the keys of intimacy. Just one.
Right. A key. One.
A key. A key of intimacy. So Sean, what for you is one of the major keys to intimacy in your life?
Thank you for the introduction and the discomfort. I love it. I'm not actually sure I felt uncomfortable, but it is a place that I really like to be. So one of the major keys to intimacy that I've found in my life is my connection to myself. And there's this sense that what I began to discover in my explorations of connecting with others is like the places that I wasn't familiar with in myself were these places that I was afraid to go with others. So it was like, if I wasn't able to really be connected to myself, if I wasn't really able to show up and for myself, then I wasn't really able to do that for anybody else. And so I was really like, it was like I'm hiding within myself, but I'm not actually aware of what's happening. I'm still like in avoidance at times in my life, at times in my former life, so to speak. It was like I would be here and I would maybe be lonely or alone and creating all these barriers, but I didn't really know why. It was just like, I don't get why I'm not able to connect with people. What's wrong here, And then began to have friends and family or people in my life, kind of tell me that they were having trouble feeling me and that I seemed distant or walled up. And then it was really actually very challenging for me because I felt like confused. I was like, I don't get it. I don't understand. How am I supposed to do the thing? How can I show up and be, fully engaged? I don't understand what's wrong with me. I started really like going into this place of what's wrong with me. But as I like sink into the exploration of like really wanting to understand myself more, suddenly I began to uncover all these pieces of myself and be able to go in and explore them and sit with them and just be with these parts of myself that I would have hidden a lot before from other people. And as I started to like reach back out after that point, it became really obvious to me that suddenly I didn't have the same barriers up. I didn't have the same walls up. And what it said to me was like, it clicked in my mind. It was like, oh, if I don't know what I'm going to find, if I don't know what they're going to find when they go in to meet me in my world, then I'm afraid to show them that. So it's like, if I'm already familiar with what's happening in here and I've already done my work around it, I'm already connecting and showing up for myself, then I'm much more available to let somebody else see that part of me as well. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. The question that comes up for me is, what is one part of yourself that you really did not want to become intimate with? That you were really just, final frontier, don't want to look at that. And maybe it was even a breakthrough in relationships.
Oh boy, that feels like a challenging question to answer. And partially it's because I guess part of it is because I've done so much work that I have so much love for myself and all the parts that I'm like, I'm not, there's not really a part of me that I'm so opposed to looking at, but I'm like imagining myself before. And I think one of the biggest pieces for me that I was really afraid to share, and that maybe only comes up in certain places though is like sexual shame, and like the pieces of me that it's like my power in my sex and my vitality and my creative force and my ability to create life and all of these things that I had put so much on top of, you know, and I'd suppressed so much for the fear of that power. Like I was afraid of what damage that same power can cause when it's wielded in an immature way. And so like clamping down on all of that, and then spending years kind of in that place where it's just hiding it and trying to avoid situations where it would come out and really show itself. And that has been probably one of the biggest dark spaces for me. And so speaking and climbing into sexuality, it was like there was a lot of pieces that were coming up for me that were really dark, and I didn't want to share them because I was ashamed of them. You know, some of the ways that I ended up expressing that sexuality, because I was suppressing it so much, you know, it's like I'm pushing it down over here and it comes out like this dark shadow, and I, you know, create some action in my life that really just is very unhealthy. And that same cycle and pattern repeating through my early adult life became a source of something that just like I didn't want to show anybody, you know. And it wasn't until I started doing the work and climbing into that and honoring like why I was repeating that cycle and what was I suppressing, that now I can really share about a lot of those things. I can speak very openly about those specific situations that occurred when it's appropriate, and like not feel shame or not feel like I'm hiding something, but instead like almost feel excited to share it, because it's powerful awareness, and it supports others in their ability to share and express about their, I imagine that it supports them in expressing their sexuality as well.
Yes. I'm so glad that you're bringing up sexuality, because it still remains to be a taboo, and it's still something that people don't speak of, and it needs to be spoken of. I really appreciate you sharing that. And I can see how, well, what I was thinking when you were speaking was you were afraid of, I'm imagining that you were afraid of the power of sexuality, of really expressing who you really are. And the shame piece keeps coming up so much for people around sexuality for so many different reasons. So sounds like this is what we need to dive more into, maybe even more deeply, in terms of what is it? Is it you're afraid of your own power sexually?
Yeah. So yeah, for me, what really came, and there's like a more recent awareness or a more recent of like merging of all these parts of me that really showed me something. And that was, like I have often harbored fear of pregnancy, of becoming a father, you know, so I was afraid of being a bad father. So I was really afraid of the potential of becoming a father. So that alone is just like, oh, I'm literally afraid of my own creative power. Like that's the most obvious example of it. And when it came to me in that way, it was just like so obvious. It was like, duh, you know. But
I don't think it's obvious though.
It's not in hindsight. Like back then, it really wasn't.
About that. Whoa, mind blown.
Yeah, it seems obvious now when I think about it, but it's like, yeah, back then I never put that together. Like, why am I so afraid of it? You know, and why is it coming out in all these unhealthy ways? And you know, another big piece of that for me was like just growing up in a society and in a household where sex is deemed kind of taboo, and it's dirty and it's bad and all these things, and it's never really celebrated for the majesty and the divine sacredness that it actually is, the beauty and the power and the one of the most, in my world, how I imagine sex is like one of our most powerful abilities and one of our most powerful and beautiful gifts to experience as humans and as soul beings in connection with another person. and how it truly is access to some of our greatest creative and power, greatest potential that we have in this life, and how much has been put on top of that to keep it from really expressing fully. And so it's like, as we break through that, as I've broken through that, it not only affects my sex, but it affects how I show up in my life, how I live, how I connect, how I create business, how I create art, how I make music. I mean, it affects my entire world, to really honor that I have a power in me that I don't fully comprehend still, that I'm still learning about, but I'm not afraid of anymore, that I'm willing to let come out, and I'm willing to let it move, and I'm willing to look at it. Because at the end of the day, for me, it's the things that I don't look at that cause the most damage and the biggest problems in my life. The moment I take a shadow and I put it out in front of me, it can't run my life anymore, because I'm looking at it, I see it, and I'm honoring it, and I'm really paying attention. And from there, I can actually move with it in a better way.
Yes. Yes. Wow. That's so powerful. Wow. It's, I can hear it in your voice. and I know that needs to be heard by so many people. Yeah. By so many people who still bury it so deeply. It's huge. I feel like sex comes up a lot when we talk.
It's a good subject.
Yes. Practice of sex, love. Anyway, what is one way that you connect with yourself deeply?
I'm trying to come back a little bit from the sexual piece.
Or not.
Well, I mean, I guess we can go there.
Please.
Okay. This feels a little edgy. Yeah, it feels a little bit vulnerable. And kind of, that's fun. That's interesting to be aware of. But so if we're going to go down that road, something that I've decided to take on in a new way, I like kind of commandeering or reclaiming ways of being that we've been taught that don't really serve me. And then I shift it into something that does serve me and is really beautiful. And one of those things is masturbation. And so for a lot of, I've had a feeling you might be excited about this. So, we're the way masturbation is kind of like brought into our world is very pornographic, and it's very much like a means to an end. It lasts a minute or two and it's done, or whatever it does. And it's just over, and it's all about the ejaculation, and it's all about the climax. And and that also shapes how we men show up in sex, because that's just what is, we don't actually know how to like stoke the fire and build it up and brew it and really let ourselves not go to ejaculation. So one of the things that I've really brought on as a practice is self-intimacy. And it's really a practice of like creating a safe space for me to like explore the sexual energy and power in my body through physical touch and without ejaculation. And so it's really about like brewing that sexual energy and moving it through my body and like letting it build, letting myself get to the point where I'm getting really close to that place, and then just breathing that energy all the way up through my body and like sending it into areas of my being that I know that are lacking, certain like traumatic areas that are like just craving for more energy. They need something more. So I send it there, and, repeating this cycle over and over, and just being with the sensation and the experience in my body. And of course, doing this without any pornography or anything, just really being present to the physical sensation in the body. And it's amazing what we learn about ourselves, what I have learned about myself from just letting myself go and explore this place. And the honest truth is it can be a little challenging for some men, because this is very similar to like how probably a lot of men imagine women masturbate, like with candles in the bathtub. And it's kind of like making fun of that, you know, but it's a beautiful, beautiful practice when we men can actually sink into that space and explore ourselves in such a beautiful way.
Thank you. That sounds delicious. And I want to dispel some myths because you just mentioned it, that I'm a wham bam thank you ma'am. Like, I am so impatient. I just want to come and be done with it. So I am in the same space resonating with you in terms of experiencing body and sex and intimacy and dating myself. Because I don't do the candles. I'm just like, let me watch some porn, let me get off, 30 seconds later I'm asleep. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I do know what you're saying.
or women who don't even touch themselves at all. I'm not going to go there yet. But yes, the whole experience of touching yourself and not using porn, that is so alive for me, because porn is very easy. And not using porn, or even fantasy. And I'm not judging that at all. It's beautiful. But my journey, and it sounds like your journey as well, has been to get off on just myself, on just my body, on just touch, on just the subtlest sensations. Shit, we need to do a whole episode on vibrators and like how they're not always awesome and how they are awesome. Like, there's two, you know, it's a double-edged sword, right? Yeah. So thank you for bringing that up. That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. And shit, we need to do a workshop.
Yeah. I'll be in Portland in a couple months.
Yes. Sean will be in Portland, everyone. Yes.
Yeah.
Go hang out, have a happy hour somewhere, eat somewhere.
Absolutely.
Just come and hang out with us and talk it up. That sounds really fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And something I actually wanted to add just real quick, just before we move on or close, or is that as I've gone through this process and really learned this piece about like self-intimacy, the experience of orgasm has really changed for me. And it's not actually always related to ejaculation anymore. So that has been a real big transformation in terms of like that. I don't remember ever really reading about as a possibility, maybe in tantric work and things like that, where it's like orgasm can actually be separated from ejaculation. And for a lot of men, I think we get sold a little, we're like selling ourselves short by like just having ejaculate orgasm, because there's something so much more profound, intense, and enriching and heart opening that happens when we start to learn to move the sexual energy through our body and circulate it more, and work with how orgasm can actually affect our entire being and not just our sexual organs. So just wanted to throw that out there as well.
Yeah. If you don't have people signing up for breakthrough sessions now, I don't know. We'll get that to happen. Full body orgasms without ejaculating, men. Awesome. So I think this is a good place to close, my friends. And thank you, Sean, for going there for us, for speaking about sexuality and intimacy in such a deep way, and for opening up who you are in service to all of us, to help us, to inspire us to start to look at those spaces within ourselves, to become intimate with ourselves, because it's so important. It's so important. We have to give it to ourselves first, which is how this conversation started, before we can give out to others. There's no way around this, friends. Practice of self-love first. So how do men need to like run to get to you now?
Yeah. Well, it's really simple. I've made it very, very easy. So you can simply go to my website, seanpatrickmayer.com, and sign up for a breakthrough session. And basically in those breakthrough sessions, we get really, really clear on what it is that you desire to have in your life. You know, what are you not getting that you really want? And we look at why you're not getting that. What is really blocking you? What is the real reason you're not getting what you want? What is stopping you? And you'll leave this session knowing exactly what you need to do to have the kind of connections or intimacy or love that it is what you're looking for. And it's a free 1 hour session, and it's one of my favorite forms of service. So I really invite you, if you feel called, to sign up for one, and let's talk.
Yes, please do. And similarly, you all can come to, the ladies can go to sophiatraeger.com, and you can experience a breakthrough session with me as well, especially if you really want to connect with yourself intimately, and not be afraid of your body anymore, not be afraid of your sex and your orgasm anymore. Please, yes, yes, really allow yourself to go to that space because you deserve it. So thank you, Sean, again. That was amazing.
Thank you, Sophia.
And join us right now every Friday for the practice of love. And we are so excited to be with you. Goodbye. Mwah.